Hey everyone, I just want to preface this by saying that this is my first time talking at a sort of like conference or talk in general, so bear with me, there might be some bloopers in there. But I've been coding for a little over 3 years now, actually. I can give you, no, slightly under. I can give you the exact date. It was the 14th of July 2015. This is the very first piece of backend code that I ever wrote. It's in Python. And today I look back at this and I'm very, quite frankly, baffled that it works. It's supposed to return the Fibonacci suite, and this was a fairly short project, problem number 2 of Project Euler. So yeah, that's how I got started. But more importantly, something that's followed me throughout this nearly 3 years of learning to code is the fact that I've experienced quite a lot of self-doubt, low self-esteem, etc. And I was constantly asking myself whether this was the right career choice, if this is something that I could do. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about this because you know, none of this has gone away. Like sometimes I still need reassurance that what I'm doing is okay. That is fine if I'm taking a little bit longer. That is fine if I don't know everything that I'm currently working on. And sometimes I still do want to run to Scotland to become a landscape photographer and breed cows because, you know, programming is just so difficult sometimes. And actually, let's talk about how programming is hard, because I think a lot of people see people coding and they're like, oh yeah, you know, that's fine, let's just do this quite easily. And a lot of people will also tell you, you know, oh, this is very similar to like learning a foreign language. And while there are similarities, there's also some like really big discrepancies, like computers will not infer meaning. So if you've got an American coming over to London and they're like, oh, where's Southwark? You're like, okay, you can go to Southwark, that's fine, I know where this is. If you do that to the computer, you give it like a random bracket, or not enough brackets, it's going to throw back an error at you and go like, hey, this is Clojure, you need more of those brackets, please. And you've also had to, you know, change the way that you're thinking about problems, because you've just gone from like interpreting everything and extrapolating everything and just like pattern matching everything to having to think in terms of like logic and like conditionals and booleans and all these things, and because your computer just doesn't understand much really, it's all in like zeros and ones, whereas you all understand emotions and feelings, and this is so much easier to deal with really, whereas the computer's just like, computer says no. And so I want to sort of focus a little bit more on some of the techniques and tools that I've used throughout these 3 years to sort of like make myself feel better, become a better coder, and also become a better programmer. And thankfully, this is the slide I was expecting. The first one that I've got on the list is self-compassion. And self-compassion will help you reduce your feelings of like guilt and shame, which we can often feel like because, you know, your computer says no again, and this is the third time that you've Googled all these things and it still doesn't work and you don't understand why. It's incredibly frustrating and you just feel stupid at the end of the day. And the thing is, you're not, you know, you're just a human and the computer just doesn't want to talk to you today. And that's fine. And self-compassion will also help you understand that everyone is in the same boat. So sometimes we often forget that, you know, well, I mean, sorry to say that, but we're not special, you know. We all have these like crappy days, and the thing is, we're very good in this area, like era of Instagram, at hiding those bad moments, those bad days that we're having. We're very good at hiding the fact that we've had to put so much effort into doing something, and it becomes very difficult to try and understand what everyone is going through, you know, because you don't know everyone's story, you don't know what they're going through, and as Amy said, you know, it could simply be that you have to reach out to someone and be like, hey, you know, it's perfectly okay to just have a bad day and I'm here for you. And so self-compassion will help you do that. And in terms of programming, this will then reduce those feelings that you might have about, you know, feeling like an idiot because you've forgotten that stupid squiggly bracket in your JSON file. The next one that I have actually goes a little bit into self-compassion as well, because it's reframing your thoughts. So reframing your thoughts is just about identifying those negative thoughts that you're having and trying to look at them and transforming them into a more objective thought. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm an idiot because I don't know anything about Clojure, for example, the truth is, if this is your first day, you know, you shouldn't be expected to know everything. So just like take a step back, you're not an idiot, you're just learning, you know, this is your first day, and a better way to look at this thought is just to go, okay, this is my first day, this is a bit tricky, but I'm going to go through it and I'm going to ask for help, and this is eventually, hopefully, going to get better, because at the end of the day, everything will pass. And on a daily basis, another good thing about reframing your thoughts is that not only will you start noticing those negative thoughts, but you will also notice the positive thoughts. And what's great about learning to reframe those thoughts is that, I've said thoughts a lot of times now, but you will come up with an idea, and because you got used to taking stock of what you're thinking about, you might think, oh, this is a great idea, or this is a bad idea, and you'll be able to sort of just, how to explain this? Take better stock of the ideas that you have and figure out what you really want from your code from that. After that, I've got a bit of mindfulness and gratitude. I'm fairly sure everyone's heard of it because it's quite popular at the moment, but it is great. And mindfulness can be quite complex to look into, because a lot of people think, oh, okay, this is about not having thoughts. It's not. This is just about you, again, reframing your thoughts, just noticing your thoughts and letting them go through. So sometimes I'm sat on my bed in the morning, and there's 1,000 thoughts about everything just going through my head, and I just cannot make them stop. And the trick to this is just think about the present moment, just pay attention to what's around you. So right now, I'm you might not see it, but internally I'm shaking massively because I'm really anxious. And all I can do is just look at all of you people and just go, you know what, this is going to be okay. I'm giving this presentation, haven't fumbled my words yet. I have my slides in the right order, and that's good. And in terms of gratitude, what you can do is just every morning just practice and think about 3 things that make you happy. So this morning, for example, I got a seat on the overground, which was great. Even better, I got the overground just as it was arriving, which felt like a personal victory. And then I had a really great lunch. And if you keep noticing these little things, you're going to notice more and more of them, and it's going to make your life feel a lot better, really. The next one that I have is mindset. So you might have heard of Mindset as a book written by a psychologist called Carol Dweck, and her theory is that there's 2 sorts of mindset. There's a fixed mindset, where people just believe that their abilities and intelligence are fixed traits, and that nothing that they can do change. Whereas growth mindset is the opposite, where you know that with practice and dedication, you will get to improve what it is that you're working on. And I think this is incredibly important to assimilate when you want to become a developer, because there's so many new technologies and so many different things that you need to tackle, that if you don't have this growth mindset, you're going to very quickly come to the end of your tether and just not think that you can do anymore, when actually you can. It's just going to take a lot of practice and a lot of coming to ClojureBridge. I have a couple more things. So one of them is keeping track, blogging and logging. This is an example of my logs. So every day I try to log what it is that I've done during the day. This is an example of what I do. So I've got a learn today section. I've got what I've done today. So every morning I'll actually start this little log and go, okay, this is what I want to do today. As you can see, today was a good day. Sometimes there's some check boxes that don't get ticked, but that's life. And then there's a plan for tomorrow. Fairly sure I've managed to do that. And then there's the resource list of things that I've looked at that have helped me solve some problems that I've encountered during the day, which is kind of nice, because when 2 days later I have exactly the same problem, I can just go back to this list and go, okay, this is how I solved it. And I found this to be very useful to take stock of how far I've come, what I've learned, and it's also very useful if you decide to blog, just not to think about the other peoples that might be reading it, but use it as a repository for your own knowledge. So if you've tackled a difficult issue, then you'll have a blog post telling you exactly how you've done it, and if you encounter it again, you can go back to it. Or if someone else encounters it, you can go, hey, I've got a great blog post for you, which I've done with my friend Himani over there. And in general, this will also help you sort of keep track of what you're doing, so that you can celebrate your achievements a little bit better. Oh, hey, other slide. I've just said that, so I'm going to skip it. But another very important thing is to recognize your achievements, and I think it's very easy to sort of dismiss anything that you've done as just being very simple, or everyone else can do it. And honestly, it doesn't matter, when the flower blooms, it doesn't look at its neighbor, it just blooms, so you do you, boo. And this is very much the same thing, if you're happy with what you've done, just be happy. It doesn't matter that all you've done is concatenating a string, you have to take that first step. You have to learn something new and let it grow. And also, this is a quote that one of my mentors at work told me the other day, which was we were just having our retro, and after this retro, he was like, hey, by the way, I'd been solving a problem that I couldn't solve by myself, so someone eventually gave me the answer to it. It was a bug, not in my program, but someone gave me the answer to how I could fix it, and then I did it, and like to me it was just like, okay, well, someone gave me the answer, so I didn't really do it, but my mentor was like, you know what, you actually did implement it, you know, and even if someone gave you the answer, you had to like work through it, you had to like figure out what it meant, you had to understand what the answer was, and then implement it in your own code. And so even if it feels like sometimes you're not really the one doing the thing, you are. And like, it doesn't matter how small or big that achievement is, just bear in mind that you have done it yourself and that you've taken a step forward. And this is sort of the end of my presentation, but also just some parting words. Just remember that sometimes it's fine to not have a great day. You know, sometimes all I want to do is just go home, have a bubble bath, or like have a cider and just moan in my own corner. And that's fine, we're all human, just take care of yourself.